Hi again, everybody. This video is sponsored by contribution from Jane, and here's her story. Hi, Ali. I just donated to your channel. I've been following you since you started. We share the same hometown. All right. I remember you now. I remember who you are now. But beyond that, I really felt much of what you spoke about must have been very painful to rehash for the world to see. I wish I had an ounce of your courage, but the best I can do is my first name. I speak about rehashing the past because 5 years after my narc abuse, I still have many months where I want to tell the world what is real and what are lies. But I have learned going through this, you are viewed as an angry and unable to move on. Here's my story. And I have many along with audio recordings and emails, which I will probably share at a later date. Tonight, I allowed myself to be abused once again to the point of tears. 5 years ago, my mother and father-in-law were both sick and dying at the same time. Along with my husband, they had 3 other children. My husband's twin sister, another younger sister, and a younger brother. His twin is what I would describe as bipolar. I'm not a psychiatrist, so it's an assumption. She never married nor had any children, thankfully. She, along with her sister, a twice divorced, passive aggressive, really babied the younger brother, head narc, and in effect made him their golden child. My husband was in effect always the scapegoat. While he lent them all money at one time or another, gave his brother work when he needed money. My husband owned a construction company for many years and has rebuilt his sister's house after it burnt down for cost. They also lived with us and their 2 children when he rebuilt. They all hate him so much regardless. While growing up, he was always held accountable. He was always held accountable by their Eastern European immigrant father. In effect, everything was always his fault. So in his adult life, to this day, he tries to overcompensate for this. He never feels his gift is enough. He offers to help anyone who he feels needs his help, and he overdoes helping his children at times, where I have to remind him they are more than capable to help themselves. I'm sure you can see the pattern. Yeah, he's trying to buy their love, and no matter how much he spends, no matter what he does, no matter how much he puts himself out there, nothing he does will ever be good enough because he is the black sheep of the family. He is the scapegoat. And by proxy, because you married him, then you take on the scapegoat and black sheep characteristics as well. 5 years ago, my mother-in-law was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer, and my father-in-law was diagnosed with end-of-stage heart failure. 2 independent adults suddenly needed around-the-clock care. I'm a nurse, but then there are 2 daughters. To be clear, I've always had a very good relationship with my husband's parents. In fact, my parents and his parents got along too well. I know my father-in-law was not an easy father. Very strong work ethic, grew up in Poland during the war and was very strict. But in his later years, he had mellowed, and whatever conflict he had with my husband had been discussed and resolved. My mother-in-law was a wonderful person. We clicked, and the fact that I considered her a kindred spirit. In her last years, we were very close friends. Both of them were always there to help us through whatever we were going through, whether in spirit or hands-on. So when they both got sick, I never gave a moment's thought to helping them. However, other than the other 3 were not so generous. And they never are, because that's your husband's job. That's your job. They're the golden children. He's the black sheep. It is his job to take care of everything so they can continue living their lives. They told my mother-in-law not to go for chemo. They told her she lived a good 80 years and it was her time. She told me this as I drove her to chemotherapy treatment. I took her to all her treatments, ER visits, doctor visits, injections, and procedures, and her last doctor's visit when the doctor told her she was not responding to treatment and would die. What kind of person says that to her mother? People who are worried about the will. People who are worried about end-of-life expenses eating up the estate. That's who. Now, if we're from the same town and they are living in that town or living in that general area, well, we both know what property goes for in Bergen County, New Jersey, and especially in Hasbrook Heights, if that's where they are as well. But even if they're in the area in Bergen County, it's one of the most expensive. I think it's the most expensive, second most expensive county to live in the country. At least it was for a very long time. So any property there is highly valued. Her husband died 7 months prior to her death. We also took him to all his medical treatments, etc. None of the others participated. Yes, my husband's sister went to the doctor visits, but that was only to get info on how much time she had left. Gosh, there's so much to tell, but that's for another day. My point in this is to describe their lack of help. None of them helped in planning or implementing any needed care. And they were so damn cruel to her in their words and their actions. Well, they wanted her to die. They wanted her to die, and they wanted that money, and they wanted as much of it as possible. And I'm going to be stunned if the will doesn't come in here at some point. The day my mother-in-law died, my brother-in-law came to our home alone. He has a second wife and 4 children, as she was under home hospice in our home. He stayed for 10 minutes and left saying we would not see him again. We thought he meant for that day. She died early the next morning. While we were at the funeral home finalizing plans, he called the funeral director and asked why we were not having the wake earlier, as if we were in control of this. As it turns out, he skipped the funeral, telling people he didn't want to fight with his brother at the funeral. That again was a lie. No flowers, no show. He showed up the night before for a few minutes, signed the book, and left. So like his parents care, he also left the funeral and all that goes with it to us. And it didn't end there. 1 week after the funeral, received a letter from his brother's lawyer. He was accusing his brother of stealing money, elder abuse, and undue influence. I guess he equated our care of his parents with an opportunity to take their money. I told you this is where this was going, everybody. This is where it always goes. This is where it always goes. You see, about a month before his dad died, which was about 7 months before his mom died, he finalized his will, making my husband executor. There's the will. And there's the will. I guess since my husband was the only one who was doing something to help them, he felt like he was the best person for the job. Turns out it was a thankless one. The next letter included his 2 sisters in the legal action. Let me also say that his mother's will was a 4-way split between her children, and she also left $5,000 each to her 11 grandchildren. About 3 months later, my brother-in-law was able to withdraw all 4 of his children's inheritance without permission. They were all minors at the time. They were told by our lawyer that we were told by our lawyer we should not press charges when he did not return the money, as it would delay settling the estate. It took over 3 years to close a simple estate, but that's a whole nother story. While this was all going on, I confided in my husband's relatives. This is where the story begins. My brother-in-law has managed to develop flying monkeys to get his supply. Some of my husband's cousins who we confided in are now up close and personal with him and my 2 sister-in-laws. Why? Why? Money. Money brings out the narcs. And the will drive them out like it's a homing beacon for all narc enablers. A homing beacon for all narc enablers because they all want to come and get their piece. My brother-in-law is very convincing. He's the type that can light up a room. I get it. We were duped for a long time, even when we could see through his bullshit. He uses Facebook as his weapon. He listens to what is important to people and then uses it as his weapon. He uses the fact that I am an outspoken atheist and plays the ultra Catholics with that. He told my mother-in-law that I was an atheist, knowing she was a devout Catholic, hoping to put a wedge in our relationship in our final weeks. It didn't work with her, but it does work with some of his relatives. His ex-wife, who we rekindled our relationship with, told me many other lies he has told her, like me charging his mother for nursing care. Well, to be honest with you, legally you are able to get compensated for nursing care and home care, but that's a subject for another video. Today there was a baby shower for one of his cousin's kids. They were all invited. I was not. These are all the same people I confided in. They all pretended they understood. Today they were all gushing about the good time they all had on Facebook. There you go. The group gaslighting. My brother-in-law, who as a guy really should not be involved, is gushing about how great it is to see all his cousins. I know it's a dig towards us. He could care less about these people. I know the truth. I feel like screaming it from the rooftop, but I know if I do, I'll be seen as angry and crazy. I feel like a fool for trusting these people. I know I need to disconnect from these people, some of which I have already. Some I believe don't get it, and they never will. And they never will. And if they don't get it, it's because they don't want to. But whether they want to or not, you don't need them in your life. And you don't need to be arguing the obvious with idiots who are only out for money anyway. I kind of feel bad, but I will also have to disconnect in order to keep my sanity. I feel so sad that people cannot see these people for who they are. I am sad that my father and mother-in-law go disrespected, but I cannot go on feeling frustrated. Not so much that these people don't get it, but that my brother-in-law got his supply tonight. Thanks for sharing this story, and I look forward to your thoughts on this. I'm just feeling so defeated right now. I was doing really good, but my narc got into me. But my narc got to me tonight. I think I get more affected about this because I grew up in a less toxic family. For me, stuff like this is really sad and mean-spirited. Why can't they see what I see? Thanks for all you do for those who have done so much to deal with than me. We need more like you. Jane. P.S. I hope he doesn't follow your channel then because I gave him more supply. Oh, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You expose him. Listen. If he was getting supply by you exposing him, then there wouldn't be a need to gaslight and lie about you behind the scenes. The lying is to protect his weakness. The lying is to cover up what a piece of shit he is. If he was really afraid of you, if he was really getting supply from you exposing him, there wouldn't be any need to gaslight and get flying monkeys out, now would there? See, that's how the narcissism works. It's that fear. It's that fear of looking crazy. So you got to know when to fight back and where to pick your battles sometimes. Now, in your case, I would be more focused on going no contact. But just because you go no contact doesn't mean exposing them breaks that contact. You could expose them without saying anything. You have Facebook. You can post whatever you want and not argue about it. Let them say what they want and let them deteriorate. P.S. I forgot to include that my husband and I, as well as our adult children, have been no contact with my brothers and sister-in-laws since my mother-in-law's funeral. Aside from the legal crap we had to endure for 3 years, which ended up draining about $100,000 from the estate in legal and accounting bills, proving nothing but, again, giving them supply. I don't know if it gave them so much supply, but narcissists are stupid when it comes to money, and they'll end up blowing more money trying to get more money, and it's just stupidity. It's just stupidity. Look, something you said is that you feel so stupid that you didn't see it, right? Look, there was no way to avoid this other than if the second you took on responsibility for your in-laws, this was set in motion. This was all set in motion. This was going to happen. So unless you said to your brothers and sister-in-laws, you better chip in at that moment, this is where it was going. And it was going like that for life based on your husband's behavior with giving them money, trying to buy their love. You're never going to buy their love. When you give the narcissist money, you're proving your weakness, not your strength, not your love. And you're just showing them, okay, how far they can go to abuse you and screw you over in the end. That's all buying the narcissist love, trying to buy the narcissist love does. You're not buying love. You're giving them money to show them how weak you are, how much you want their love, how much you want their support, how much you want their attention, and they're never going to accept it. They're gonna sit there, they sit there and say, oh, look at this dumb motherfucker. Oh, I can really twist him up now. I could get him and his wife to take care of our parents, and we'll swoop in at the end and sweep up all the money and make them look like the bad guys. That's what happened. And that's what happens repeatedly in these will situations. So don't beat yourself up for being a good person. Don't. But I will say this about the in-laws. The brothers and sisters and the black sheep dynamic came from somewhere. Came from somewhere. And it's probably your in-laws. So keep that in mind as well. Because this family is severely screwed up. Severely screwed up. But don't be too hard on yourself for being a good person. And your husband shouldn't either. But this should be the ultimate lesson. You can't buy their love. Because when you try to buy their love, they see it as weakness. Bottom line. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for your story. I'm sorry it took me a while to get to it, the health issues. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a narcissist you'd like to expose, or a topic you'd like me to cover, you know what to do with the email and my PayPal link in the description box. And remember, when you do send me your story, please let me know at the top of the email whether it's with or without contribution and what name you'd like to go by. This is Ollie Matthews. Thanks for watching. See you all again soon.